I had never expected a single moment to change everything I thought I knew about my life, but that night, it did. I was serving tables at Lagos' most elegant restaurant, the Eco House, where patrons spent in one sitting more than most of us earned in a month. I was on my double shift, feet aching, my uniform clinging to my back, smile plastered across my face. Just 3 more hours, I whispered to myself. Just 3 more hours until I could go home to my mother, who lay in a hospital bed battling cancer she couldn't escape. Hey family, before we dive into this powerful story, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss the next one. Please like this video, drop a comment to share your thoughts or lessons you learned, and give your honest review. I'd love to hear what you think. Now, let's begin the story. It was late, the lights dimmed, and the hum of soft jazz barely drowned out the clatter of plates and hushed conversations. Then he arrived. A man who seemed ordinary at first, but something about him made the room feel colder, quieter, as if the world had leaned in to watch. His name was Alex Abiola, though few outside the circles of wealth and power would know him. I had heard whispers, tech mogul, billionaire, self-made, yet somehow lonely. Tonight, he requested a private table in the farthest corner of the restaurant. Alone. That was unusual. I approached, balancing a tray of glasses like I always did, professional, invisible. But then my eyes caught something, a tattoo on his wrist. A red rose, twisted with thorns into an infinity symbol. I froze.
My heart slammed against my chest.
That tattoo. I knew it. My mother had the exact same one. Same design. Same wrist. Every day of my life, I had traced it with my eyes as she cooked, washed dishes, braided my hair, held my hand. I had asked her 1,000 times what it meant. Always the same answer. It's from before you were born. But now, staring at this stranger, I felt the past collide with the present in a way I didn't understand. I had never spoken to a customer like this before, but my voice slipped out anyway. Excuse me, sir. My mother has a tattoo just like yours. May I ask, what does it mean? Time stopped. His glass of wine froze halfway to his lips. His eyes widened, and I swear I saw a lifetime of memory flash behind them. Then he asked a question I could never have expected. What is your mother's name? I whispered it. Maya Adesanya. And just like that, everything I thought I knew about my life shattered. I barely remembered finishing the rest of my shift that night. My hands shook as I poured water into glasses, my smile suddenly feeling like a lie. Alex Abiola didn't speak for the next 10 minutes, just stared at me, his eyes wide, unfocused. The soft clink of cutlery and murmurs of the restaurant faded into the background. I wanted to retreat, apologize, escape. But I couldn't. Something told me that moment was bigger than any rules about professionalism or etiquette. Finally, he whispered, almost to himself, Maya? His voice cracked, and I realized he was not the cold, untouchable billionaire the media had painted him as. There was something human there, fear, shock, maybe regret. I swallowed hard. Yes, that's my mother. The rest of the night blurred. I served him the meal he had ordered, salmon, lightly seasoned, with sautéed vegetables. I barely noticed the taste or the smells of the restaurant anymore. All I could think about was that tattoo. How did he have the same one? Why did my mother never mention him? The questions piled in my head, heavy and unrelenting. When the shift ended, I walked out into the humid Lagos night, neon lights reflecting off wet streets from an earlier drizzle. My mother's hospital was across town. Every step toward it felt like a drumbeat, counting down the seconds until I would see her frail figure, pale and tired, yet always smiling for me. She had been battling breast cancer for months, stage 4 now, metastasized, and even the best doctors were only giving her a year. I wanted to tell her what had happened, but I hesitated. How do you explain that a man from your mother past, a man she never speaks of, had suddenly appeared in your life, and that he might hold answers to questions you had been asking your entire life? My mind raced with what-ifs and uncertainties as I navigated the busy streets, dodging taxis and street hawkers calling for attention. By the time I reached the hospital, the sun had disappeared completely, leaving the city in shades of orange and gray. I found my mother asleep in her bed, hooked up to IVs, her hair gone from chemotherapy. I kissed her forehead gently. "Mama, it's me," I whispered. She stirred, smiled weakly. And I realized I couldn't hold the secret any longer. I had to tell her about Alex Abiola. But even as the words left my lips, I wondered, would she even remember him? Or had the past been buried so deep that it was lost forever? "Mama," I began softly, sitting beside her bed, Do you know someone named Alex Abiola?" Her hand trembled slightly as she rested it on mine. Her eyes, once sharp and vibrant, widened in shock. "Alex," she whispered, almost a question. Where did you hear that name?" I told her about the restaurant, about the tattoo, about the moment I had seen it, and how my heart had stopped. She didn't move. The foreline tugged slightly against her arm, but she didn't care. Her lips parted slightly, and for the first time in years, I saw hesitation in her eyes. She was scared, afraid of what might come back from the past. I can't believe it," she murmured. After all these years, her voice broke, and she turned her gaze to the window. Outside, the city was alive, lights dancing on the water of Lagos Lagoon, but inside that hospital room, time had slowed. "Mama, what is it?" I pressed gently. Her hands clasped mine tighter, nails digging in. He found me," she whispered. "After 25 years, he found me." I felt the air leave my lungs. My stomach twisted. "Found you?" What did that mean? Who was this man? And why now, after all this time? She told me about her youth, her life before I was born. How she had loved once deeply, and how circumstances, family, distance, illness, had forced her to leave. How she had believed she had lost him forever. And all these years, we had lived in the same city, and fate had somehow kept them apart, two lives running parallel but never touching. I sat there listening, the pieces of a puzzle falling into place. The tattoo, the name, the lingering sadness in my mother's eyes, it all meant something I had yet to fully understand. Something that would change everything about my life. And in that moment, I realized the story of my origin, of who I was, where I came from, was about to unravel in ways I could never imagine. The following morning, I couldn't focus on anything else. I walked the hospital halls, clutching my phone as if it could answer the questions spinning in my head. I searched for Alex Abiola online. Articles, interviews, photographs, a man revered for building tech empires, yet somehow always alone. In every picture, he was impeccably dressed, confident, yet there was a loneliness that jumped out at me. Could this be the man my mother had loved? The one from the stories she never told me? And the tattoo, what had it meant to them all those years ago? I felt a strange pull, a connection that wasn't mine to feel, yet it roared inside me like wildfire. I returned to my mother's room, her fragile form sitting up in bed. "Mama," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I looked him up. He's so real. And he's here, somewhere in this city, just like you said." She nodded, tears brimming. "Toro, I thought I had lost him. I thought I had to bury that love forever." I held her hand tighter. "Mama, what happened between you two? Please, tell me everything." And she did. About their first meeting, the excitement, the dreams they shared, the laughter and promises. How she had left for her family in Italy when her grandmother fell gravely ill, thinking she could come back in 6 months. How she had discovered she was pregnant only after she had arrived, and how she had searched desperately when she returned, only to find him gone. Her story was a tapestry of love, regret, and missed opportunities, each thread tugging at my heart. And suddenly I understood. The tattoo was more than ink. It was a memory, a mark of a love that had survived time, distance, and heartbreak. But now it had returned unbidden into our lives, carrying with it a promise of answers, a reckoning, and perhaps a second chance. That evening, as the Lagos sun dipped behind the skyline, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Ask for me at the Eco House. Representative of Alex Abiola." My hands shook. My mind raced. Could this really be happening? Could the man who haunted my mother memories and now stirred something deep inside me truly be reaching out? I didn't know whether to be excited, terrified, or both. I told my mother, who squeezed my hand and nodded, tears streaming down her thin cheeks. If he is who I think he is, you must go. You must find the truth. I arrived at the restaurant, heart hammering, nerves frayed like worn rope. The familiar din of diners, clinking cutlery, and low conversations felt unreal, as if I were moving through a dream. And then I saw him, Alex Abiola, standing in the corner, looking different, older, wearier than the pictures online, yet still unmistakably him. Our eyes met, and in that moment, the years of separation, of longing, of unspoken words, pressed down on us both. It was as if the air itself had thickened. I stepped closer, my voice barely above a whisper. You saw me." He nodded, swallowing hard.
"Yes, I saw you, and I
need to know about your mother." And just like that, the threads of the past began weaving into the present, pulling us toward a truth that neither time nor circumstance could erase. The next morning, I sat beside my mother's hospital bed, her frail hands clutched in mine. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and flowers someone had left on the windowsill. The sunlight seeped through the curtains, soft and gentle, but my heart raced with the weight of last night events. "Mama," I began cautiously, "he knows. Alex, he saw me. He knows you're here." Her eyes widened, a mixture of fear, disbelief, and hope shining through. "Alex here," she whispered. "After all these years?" I nodded. "He wants to know about you, about your health, your treatment. He wants to help." Tears ran down her cheeks, and she squeezed my hand tightly. After 25 years, he remembers. He never forgot, but I thought he had. I wanted to cry. 25 years of love lost to timing, distance, and circumstance, and now it was back. But even as hope began to bloom, there was a shadow, a fear that clung to me. Could the past really be reclaimed after so long? I watched her face closely. The chemotherapy had left it pale, with sharp angles that hadn't been there before, but her eyes still held fire. She told me the story again. Meeting Alex in her early 20s, the secret promises, the red rose tattoo, the goodbye that had never truly been won. Each word weighed heavier on me, the gravity of the years they lost pressing down on my chest. I realized then that the tattoo was more than a mark of love. It was a symbol of survival, memory, and hope, surviving through the chaos of life, visible even after decades. And now it had drawn him back into our world. By noon, a man in a crisp gray suit arrived at the hospital. He introduced himself as Musa Lawan, Alex's lawyer. He carried a tablet and a file, but his eyes were warm and kind, exuding the quiet confidence of someone used to dealing with delicate matters. "Ms. Adesanya," he said politely, "Alex asked me to find you. He wants to know your condition, your full name, the treatment plan, and the prognosis. He also asked if you would like to meet him, today, if possible." I felt my throat tighten. "Mama, he wants to see you. He's been searching for answers for you for years." Her lips trembled, and she nodded slowly. "Then let him come. But I am not sure I can bear the flood of memories." Musa assured her, calm and professional, that Alex was aware of her condition and that he had not come to reopen old wounds, but to offer help, comfort, and perhaps a second chance. He explained that Alex had made arrangements, private treatment, financial assistance, and even options for experimental therapies. I looked at my mother, her frail frame perched on the edge of the hospital bed, and saw her decision reflected in her eyes. She wanted this meeting. She wanted closure. She wanted him back, even if only for a little while. 3 hours later, there was a knock at the door. My stomach turned into a tight knot. I opened it, and there he was, Alex Abiola. Same sharp suit, same intense gaze, but older, wearier, and human in a way the photos never captured. His eyes landed on my mother, and for a moment, all the years between them disappeared. "Mama," he whispered, his voice catching. She rose slightly, her face lighting up in a way I hadn't seen in years. Their hands met over the bed, and the red rose tattoos on their wrists were visible, faded but unmistakable. They didn't speak for a long time. They just stared, crying silently, fingers intertwined, hearts reconnecting across decades. I waited in the hallway, pretending to scroll through my phone, but I could hear muffled voices, the occasional laugh through tears, the small sobs that accompany a reunion long overdue. Time had stopped in that room, and I realized that this was not just a meeting, it was a reclamation of everything they had lost, of love paused but never erased. After nearly 2 hours, Alex stepped out, his eyes red, his face pale. He motioned for me to follow him to the hospital cafeteria. The silence between us was thick, heavy with unspoken truths. "I need to know about you," he said softly, hands trembling. "When were you born?" I told him, March 15th, 2000, and he closed his eyes, running his hands over his face. Then he spoke, voice thick with emotion. "Your mother didn't know she was pregnant when she went to Italy. She came back and you were here. All this time. I've been searching for her, and now I realize I was also searching for you." The world seemed to tilt around me. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my father, my origins, had been rewritten in a single, crushing revelation. Alex had been in the same city all along, searching, longing, but unaware that I even existed. I felt dizzy, overwhelmed by the weight of history, love lost and love found. It was almost too much to bear. I returned to my mother room, the truth echoing in my ears. She had loved him, waited for him, believed he had moved on, while he had spent years looking for her. Fate, timing, and circumstance had conspired to keep them apart. Alex followed soon after, and for the next few hours, they spoke, quietly, gently, honestly. Tears, laughter, and the occasional sob punctuated their words. They told each other the 25 years of missed moments, of longing and regret, and slowly, painfully, love began to stitch itself back together. I sat in the corner, watching, realizing that I had witnessed something extraordinary, a love story that had survived decades, trials, and separation, yet refused to die. And somewhere deep inside, I understood that this reunion was just the beginning. The past had been found, the present reshaped, and the future, uncertain but hopeful, was waiting for us to step into it. The following day, my mother rested quietly, but there was a new light in her eyes. It was faint, almost shy, but unmistakable hope. Alex had left after hours of conversation the night before, promising he would return, that he was committed to helping her, to making up for lost time. I sat by her bedside, holding her hand as she slept lightly, thinking about how fragile life is. The cancer had stolen her strength, but it could not steal her spirit. She was tired, yes, but something about the reunion had breathed new energy into her. I could see it in the way she smiled even in exhaustion, in the way she reached for my hand as if to reassure herself that the world hadn't abandoned her.
We talked quietly about Alex.
I told her I had seen him, how he had looked older, wearier, but how his eyes were soft when he looked at her. She nodded, tears forming, and whispered, "I never stopped thinking about him, even when I thought I had no choice." I realized then that life is cruel in its timing. 25 years had passed, yet their love had endured, hidden in tattoos, in memories, in whispered promises to each other. And now, suddenly, it had returned. She looked at me and said softly, "Toro, promise me you will help me see him again. There is so little time, but even a few days, they are precious." I promised. The weight of responsibility pressed on me. It was not just about reconnecting two lost lovers. It was about time, mortality, and ensuring that the remnants of a life nearly lost could be salvaged. And as I left her room to make calls and arrange what needed to happen, I felt the tremor of destiny shift under my feet. Something old, something forgotten, was waking, and I was the bridge between the past and the present. By mid-afternoon, arrangements had begun. Alex's lawyer, Musa, coordinated with the hospital staff, negotiating private rooms, new treatment plans, and even financial support to ease our burden. I watched as my mother's eyes filled with a mix of disbelief and gratitude. "You don't have to worry about the costs," I said gently. "He's helping us." She shook her head slowly. "This is too much. 25 years and suddenly all this? Is it real?" I smiled faintly. "It's real, Mama. You can see him again. You can have time with him." We spent the day discussing logistics, appointments for chemotherapy, special diets, transportation. Even as her body weakened, her spirit responded to the love and care she once thought she had lost forever. Alex's intervention was more than financial, it was symbolic. It was a promise that the past could be healed, even if the scars remained. As night fell, I watched the Lagos skyline through her hospital window. The city hummed with life, unaware of the intimate miracle unfolding in one of its many towers. And yet, for my mother, for Alex, for me, it was monumental, the chance to reclaim what life had taken and restore it, even in part. 3 days later, the meeting happened. I waited in the hallway outside my mother's room, nervous, unsure of what to expect. The door opened slowly, and there he was, Alex, standing in the doorway, hands slightly shaking, eyes wide and soft. "Are you ready?" I asked quietly. He nodded. "I've waited 25 years. I can wait a few more minutes." We stepped inside together. My mother's eyes lit up instantly, a mixture of recognition, surprise, and unspoken longing. Time fell away as they reached for each other, fingers brushing over the faded red rose tattoos. They spoke slowly, carefully, sharing the weight of years apart. Tears came freely, as did laughter, soft and tentative. I sat in the corner, pretending to read, but I could hear everything: the confessions, the apologies, the recounting of memories, the hope for what could still be. For the first time in a long time, my mother looked peaceful, and Alex, he looked human, vulnerable, tender, yet strong in the way someone who had waited decades for love could only be. After 2 hours, they paused. Alex stepped out briefly, asking me to follow. We sat in the hospital cafeteria, the hum of fluorescent lights above us, a small table between us, and the city outside moving unaware of the intensity inside. "You've changed my life," he said quietly, his voice raw with emotion. "All these years, I thought I had lost her, and now, I realize I was also searching for you. Your existence that changes everything." I swallowed hard. You're saying I?" "Yes," he admitted. "I never knew you existed. If I had, things would have been different." I felt the world tilt. My life, my origin, my identity, all rewritten in moments of confession. The father I never knew, the man my mother loved, had been searching for us all along, and only now were we finally converging. Returning to my mother's room, I watched them reconnect. Alex held her hand, traced the tattoo on her wrist, and she smiled through tears. Words were unnecessary. The gestures, the presence, the shared history spoke louder than anything they could say. I realized then that life is a story with twists and turns that no one can predict. Sometimes, love is tested not by absence but by time, by circumstance, by trials that seem insurmountable. And yet, in the quiet moments, in the shared laughter and tears, it can endure. I sat in my chair, absorbing every detail, every glance, every sigh, knowing that these moments, fragile, fleeting, and profound, were shaping the future we had been denied for so long. And deep down, I understood. This was only the beginning of reclaiming what had been lost. The next morning, my mother and Alex were still quietly holding hands, talking in hushed voices, their words punctuated with laughter and tears. I sat on the edge of the bed, my notebook open but untouched, listening. There was a nervous energy in the room, a sense that every question left unasked for 25 years was finally being answered. "Mama," I said softly, "can you tell me more about him? About when you met?" Her face softened as she recounted the crowded streets of Lagos, the small cafe near the marina where they first spoke. She described how young they were, full of dreams, unprepared for the weight of life that would pull them apart. I noticed Alex's eyes glisten with memory, every detail she spoke echoing in him, confirming what had been locked away in both of their hearts. "Why the tattoo?" I asked, breaking the silence. She looked at her wrist, then at Alex, and smiled faintly. "We wanted something to remember us, something permanent, something that would survive even if we couldn't be together." Alex's voice was hoarse when he spoke. It reminded me every day that she existed, that what we had was real. Even when I thought I had lost her forever, the tattoo told me I had not. I realized then that the tattoos were more than symbols. They were lifelines, messages written in ink to survive time and distance. And now, seeing them together, faded but still visible, I felt the gravity of their reunion deepen. 3 days later, Alex's lawyer, Musa, returned with the DNA test results. We were all gathered in my mother room, the air thick with anticipation and fear. My heart pounded as the tablet opened, displaying the numbers that would confirm or deny everything. 99.9% probability of paternity, Musa said softly, looking at Alex first, then my mother, then me. I felt my knees weaken. I was his daughter. The father I had thought was someone else my entire life had been right in this city, searching for me, waiting, longing. Alex looked as if he might collapse, but he steadied himself, breathing slowly. "You're my daughter," he whispered, voice breaking. My mother nodded, tears rolling freely down her cheeks. She reached for him, and together, we hugged, 3 generations bound by fate, loss, and love rediscovered. With confirmation, Alex immediately arranged for my mother to be transferred to a private facility. The next morning, we said goodbye to the public hospital that had held her through the first months of chemotherapy. The private wing had windows that opened to the Lagos Lagoon, gardens full of flowers, and staff who moved with quiet efficiency. It was overwhelming for my mother at first. "This is too much," she said, her voice shaking. "I can't accept all of this." Alex took her hand gently. "You don't have to. I want to do this. You deserve it after everything you've endured." And slowly she accepted. Treatments were adjusted, new medications introduced, and a sense of hope entered the room for the first time in months. Over the following week, Alex visited daily, sometimes twice a day. He would sit by my mother's bed, reading aloud, holding her hand, and sharing stories of the life he had lived, the company he had built, and the loneliness he had endured without her. I watched them laugh quietly together, the sound foreign and beautiful in the sterile hospital room. The city outside bustled, unaware of the miracle inside, a love once lost now carefully rebuilding itself. Even in her weakness, my mother's spirit seemed stronger with him near. She smiled more, rested more, and for the first time in years, the fight against her illness didn't feel so lonely. I found myself sitting quietly, observing the two of them. They were proof that love can endure even when life seems unfair. Alex looked at me, eyes soft but questioning. "She saved us, didn't she?" I nodded. "Mama, we did. And now we can move forward." For the first time, I believed it. 25 years of missed time, regret, and separation could not erase the bond we had just begun to reclaim. The past had been painful, but it had led us here, to a fragile, beautiful, and hopeful present. And somewhere deep in my chest, I felt the first flicker of a life fully understood, a family reunited, and a story finally coming together. By the 3rd week, Alex and my mother had settled into a quiet rhythm at the hospital. Their hands were rarely apart, and their conversations, though sometimes broken with tears, held a softness I had never seen before. It was as if the years of waiting and longing had taught them patience, a patience that could only come from surviving loss. I often sat in the corner, watching them, noticing little things, the way he brushed a strand of hair from her face, the subtle smile she gave when he recounted a small childhood memory, the way their laughter echoed softly through the private wing. It was quiet, delicate, and profoundly intimate. One afternoon, I asked my mother how she felt seeing him again after so long. Her voice was soft but steady. Toro, it feels like finding a part of myself I thought was lost forever. I was scared, yes, but seeing him, knowing he still cared, it's like I can breathe again. Alex, overhearing, took her hand and kissed it gently. I never stopped loving you, Maya. Not for a single day. And now, even though time has taken some things from us, it has given us this moment. And I will not waste it. For the first time in months, I saw her truly smile, the kind of smile that fills the heart with warmth. It was a small miracle, proof that even after years of separation, love can be reclaimed, fragile but resilient. Despite the hospital walls and the constant hum of medical equipment, we began finding moments of normalcy. I would sit with my mother as she ate her meals, Alex beside her, and we'd talk about trivial things, books, movies, the noise of Legos outside. It was strange, almost surreal. The man who had once been a shadow from the past was now here, sharing in the small, mundane moments of life. He asked about my schoolwork, laughed when I told him about the chaos of my part-time job, and seemed genuinely interested in the life we had built while separated. One evening, as the sun set over the city, casting long orange shadows across the room, Alex whispered to my mother, "I want to make up for every day I wasn't here. Not just with words, but with my actions." She nodded, her hand resting on his chest, feeling the steady beat of a heart that had waited a lifetime for her. These small, simple moments were the healing balm we didn't know we needed. The hospital, once a place of fear and exhaustion, became a sanctuary where the past and present could finally meet. Alex began discussing plans for the future. He wanted my mother to move out of the hospital as soon as she was well enough, to live somewhere peaceful near the water, somewhere she had always dreamed of. We looked at properties along the Lagos Lagoon, imagining mornings spent watching the sun rise over the water, the city waking below. My mother hesitated, fear and illness still lingering in her eyes. "It feels too fast," she whispered. "It's not about speed," Alex replied gently. "It's about reclaiming the life we should have had and the moments we still can have together. I want to give you every day possible, Maya, in comfort, with love, and without worry." I realized then that love wasn't about the years we had missed, but the time we were willing to invest now. And for the first time, I saw both of them dreaming again, hoping again, and believing that life could be generous even after decades of cruelty. Over the next few weeks, our family bond strengthened. Alex and my mother spent hours talking, planning, laughing, and even crying together. I watched from a distance as their hands intertwined, tattoos visible, faded but still vibrant in meaning. One evening, after a particularly emotional therapy session, my mother turned to me. "Toro, look at him. He has waited for me all these years. And now he's here, not as a shadow of memory, but as a living, breathing part of my life. You must understand how rare this is." I nodded, tears welling up. "I do, Mama. I see it. And I see how happy you are. That's enough for me." Even in the shadow of illness, I saw their joy. It wasn't perfect, life never is, but it was real, and it was ours to cherish. By the end of the month, my mother was stable enough to leave the hospital for short periods. Alex rented a small apartment along the water, cozy and full of sunlight, where we could all be together. We walked along the boardwalk, feeling the warm Lagos breeze, smelling the salt from the lagoon, and listening to the distant sounds of city life. In those moments, the years apart seemed almost like a dream. The past had left scars, but it had also brought lessons, patience, and an appreciation for the fragile, precious nature of love and family. I watched my mother and Alex, hands intertwined, and felt a deep sense of relief and hope. The love that had been paused for 25 years was now alive, breathing, and determined to endure whatever time remained. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light across the water, I knew that, finally, we had the chance to live fully, to cherish every moment, and to rebuild what had once been lost. The apartment by the Lagos Lagoon became our refuge. My mother's laughter echoed across the sunlit rooms, and Alex was always near, holding her hand, sharing stories, and filling the space with a warmth that had been absent for decades. One afternoon, as the city hummed beyond the windows, Alex looked at my mother with a softness I had never seen before. "Maya," he said, voice trembling slightly, "I should have asked you to stay all those years ago. I should have made sure nothing separated us." She smiled, tears glistening. "But life did what it had to do, Alex. We survived it. And now we are here. That is what matters." It was a quiet moment, simple yet monumental. No grand gestures, no public spectacle, just two people who had waited a lifetime to be together finally embracing the present. I realized then that love doesn't always arrive on time, but when it does, it demands our full attention. The following weeks were filled with routines of care, hope, and small joys. My mother underwent therapy and immunotherapy at the best clinics in Lagos, all covered by Alex, whose attention to every detail made her recovery smoother and her spirits higher. I watched them together as they walked along the boardwalk, her frailty softened by his patience, her laughter unburdened by fear. Every evening, they would sit on the balcony, watching the sun set over the water, hands intertwined. It was in these quiet moments that I understood how deep love could go. It was not about grand declarations, but about showing up day after day, even when life had already dealt you pain. 6 months after the reunion, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, Alex asked my mother to sit with him on the balcony. The city was alive with light and wind, but in that moment, it felt like the world had paused for them. "I should have asked you 25 years ago," he whispered, holding her hand gently. "I should have never let you leave. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face as she nodded. "Yes, Alex. Yes." It was a small ceremony a month later, intimate and full of love. Just the three of us, the doctor and a few nurses who had cared for my mother. No grand hall, no citywide announcement, just hearts reconnecting. Life settled into a new rhythm. My mother's illness was managed, her treatments effective, her spirit rejuvenated. Alex remained by her side, unwavering, devoted. We spent afternoons walking by the water, evenings cooking together, and nights sharing stories of lost years and regained love. 2 years later, my mother's hair had grown back in soft waves, her smile fuller, her laughter richer. Alex and she lived by the water, traveling when she felt strong, visiting places they had left behind decades ago. One evening, I sat with them on the porch, watching the Lagos sunset paint the sky in gold and orange. Their hands intertwined, symbols of love, pain, and eternity. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked, softly. "The tattoos?" Alex answered first. "I never regret it. They were the only proof that our love was real." Maya added, "I thought about covering mine, but I couldn't. It was all I had left of him. And now it reminds me that love doesn't die. Even after 25 years, it waits." We sat in silence, watching the water reflect the sky, knowing that life is fragile, love is patient, and moments are precious. The cancer, the lost years, the struggles, they were all part of the story, but this was forever. However long forever lasted, they had it together at last. And I knew, deeply, that love, even when delayed, always finds its way home. God bless. Hey fans! If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to come back to my page, Folktale Bias, because we have more exciting, emotional, and powerful African stories waiting for you. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment telling me what you feel or which part touched you the most. Every like, every comment, every subscription gives me the power and strength to bring you more stories from Africa, stories that make you laugh, cry, and reflect. So don't just watch. Join the family, share your thoughts, and let's keep the magic of African storytelling alive together. Remember, new chapters, new stories, new lessons every week. Be part of it. Be part of Folktale Bias.